turning off the TV, observing the mind, spending time with yourself. Um, Initially, these are all things that you do to try to create space, because initially it's hard to um, distinguish between your true nature and your mind. It's because we're used to, because of the conditioning, we're used to operating, you know, from the perspective of the mind. You know, we're used to believing the mind, uh, identifying with the mind as ourselves, not understanding the true nature. Um, of reality. And so there's things that, yeah, initially you do have to turn off the TV. You do have to, just do things to kind of create some distance. And that's what observing the mind does initially. And when you do that, usually you realize how fickle the mind is. You realize how random and untrue that the mind can be. And you realize that it can't be you, because when you're observing it, it brings the light, it shines the light upon your true nature, because you are that witness in the background. And if you're witnessing the mind, then the mind can't be you, you know. If you're able to see the comings and the goings, the clouds passing, it's here and then it's gone, and then it's like the racing thoughts back to back, like a movie, goes from one scene to the next. And if you're able to just step back from that, it allows you to have a little bit of separation. So yeah, you do have to create some space in order, initially, in order to assist with the unveiling. And because before that, prior to creating a space, it's almost like there's nowhere. Where do you begin? You know, I can remember having the feeling of, where do I begin? I mean, you know, and it's a searching, and everything is was. I was just very unsure, and it just felt like I was just reaching for straws, you know, like. But as soon as I was able to create that space, then it was almost like, my being, my true nature assisted me, and the universe assisted me in the unveiling of all that conditioning. Because then, once you recognize that the mind isn't you, then it's easy to step back more and more from the movie, you know, and observe it more, and not be a participant in the action play that's going on in the mind, and not believe in everything that crosses the mind, you know. And so, yeah, there's ways to create that separation, and it's hard when you're a participant in a play, to be able to observe and recognize what's needed, you know. And it's only when you can come out of the play where you realize, or you could see really the full picture. And so that's what creating space does. And there's more ways that you can create space in order to realize yourself. It's like, when in the beginning, basically, I did a number of things. I just pretty much wanted to take away all of the externals, um, just to spend time with myself. Not only that, but then I did add a few things like music and just like uh, the music of love. You know, I listen to a lot of Muji, Maha music. I listen to 432 hertz, I think, music. You know, it was just a cleansing that I was going through. And then I just tried to go to that place where before all activity, you know, um, removing everything that could be removed and just sitting with myself, you know. And that's a way to create space in order to be able to be that witness and not be caught up in the play. And then if there was times that I was, you know, I did get caught up in the chaos and in the play, in the activity, in the dialogue, then as soon as I noticed that that was happening, it was just a return into the present. And that's another way of creating space. It's just staying in the now, basically. And the more you do that, you'll realize that you will realize that the mind is definitely not you. You start to feel in the sensations of your body is another way to create space. Because the more you feel the sensations of the body, you know, the hands, the feet, as you sit with yourself, you'll realize that's all there is just the sensations, you know. And you'll realize that is not you too, because you're able to sit back and witness that these are, the body is just a bag of sensations, basically. And so that helps create space. So to enhance, really, or more unveil the recognition of your true being, your true self. Because initially it's all hard because everything is moving. There's a habit, basically, of operating from the mind. And then so as you start to operate more from an intuitive nature, from your heart, it just takes a little effort and intention, basically, to just step back from all those things that are not real, that are not, that are passing, that are changing, that's here today and gone tomorrow. There's a time to go ahead and just step away from that, so that the recognition of yourself can shine more beautifully. And so, yeah, you do have to initially just be with yourself, create that space. And those are some of the things that was very helpful for me in the beginning. And the biggest thing was the mind. It was like, once I, you know, and it was hard. I have to say, initially, I felt like it was challenging. I'll put it like that. The first day that I tried to, you know, just pay attention to the mind, it was almost like, ooh, you know, it's cringe. Because all of the things that goes through the mind, and not even a day, but even in a minute, really, you're like, my goodness, it's a bunch of it. And I got to the point where sometimes I would wake up in this mind chatter, ickiness, you know, it was a suffering, a feeling of suffering that went with it when I woke up And I felt like, you know what, the early morning peace needs to be just that, you know. You wake up, it shouldn't be all this mind. The more I paid attention to it, because before it was just normal. You know, it's what I felt like, you know, was normal. That, you know, I've always had all of this chatter, so it didn't seem like it was an issue until I paid attention to it and realized, oh my, wow, that, yeah, And then it was a play between trying not to resist the mind, because if you resist it, it just gets louder. And, you know, I felt this very unable, or I guess less powerful at that time than the mind. You know, it was like the mind, no, if I went to try to resist it, then it would just scream louder, you know, and it would get crazier, and it would just be like, you know. So it was a play initially between just observing and not trying to get involved and stop this from saying that, you know, trying to be a good, mindful person and just let go. The best thing was, and I learned over time, the best thing is just to let go, observe it. And then after a while, after the space was created, because when you do that, it creates a space between the observer and what's being observed. So at that point, you can realize that, okay, you are not what's being observed. You know, you're just the witness behind all of the activity. And so at that point, knowing that, then I could go to the next, if we want to say, stage, to the point of actually just ignoring it. Now I understand this is not me. But initially you need that little space to be created in order to just observe it. And that's what observing does. It just creates a space so you can realize that the difference between you and your mind, you know. And once you learn that, not that you realize yourself fully, but you understand, well, the mind isn't me. Then once you've done that, then it's easier to be able to ignore that. And then after the ignoring is not believing, you know, basically ignoring and pretty much not believing what's coming across all the time, you know. And occasionally it'll grab you, and then that'll be less and less. But these are all the things that, you know, helps you with creating space. And so let me see if there's anything else coming up. That's just what came up to create space, really. But it was something else that came up that it came and left. And I'm trying to see. So basically, yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about dealing with the mind. And pretty much in the area of creating space in order to realize your true nature. And but anyway, I didn't have much to talk about today. Really, what I thought about earlier, I didn't write it down, so it kind of came and left. Normally I can revisit it, but I had something that I really wanted to discuss that did not come up. But I guess this is what was needed now. Creating that separation. Hopefully someone, I know someone. This was for someone, basically. So anyway, thank you for spending this moment with me. Remember that you are beautiful and I love you. Bye.